$500 will not cover one average new car payment anymore. But in the right driveway, at the right estate sale, or behind the right handwritten for sale sign, it can still buy an entire car. Not a perfect car, not a spotless collector vehicle, and probably not something you will find sitting under bright lights at a dealership. I am talking about an old, overlooked machine that starts every morning, carries you to work, and keeps running because it was built before everything needed a computer module and a dealership appointment. Most buyers believe every $500 car is automatically a money pit. Sometimes they are right. There are plenty of rusted-out junkers, slipping transmissions, blown head gaskets, and cars being sold 5 minutes before they completely give up. But there are also a few specific vehicles that are so simple, so common, and so forgotten by the market that a running example can still appear for almost nothing. The secret is not searching for the prettiest car. It is searching for the car nobody else wants, checking it carefully, and knowing which ugly old machines have already proven they can survive 300,000 miles. Stay with me, because the final car is a full-size American V8 that parts stores understand, driveway mechanics love, and younger buyers ignore completely. Before talking about the cars, we need to be honest about what $500 buys today. You are not shopping for perfection. You are shopping for a usable engine, a working transmission, a solid structure, and a clean title. Faded paint does not matter. A sagging headliner does not matter. A broken radio does not matter. Even air conditioning may have to wait. What matters is whether the car can safely start, stop, steer, and survive long enough to become the cheapest transportation you have ever owned. These deals usually do not come from regular dealerships. They come from estate sales, church bulletin boards, small-town classifieds, government or business fleet auctions, elderly owners who have stopped driving, and homeowners who bought a newer vehicle and simply want the old one out of the driveway. Facebook Marketplace and Craigslist can still produce bargains, but you need to sort by lowest price. Search outside major cities and move quickly when a clean title car appears. A legitimate cheap car usually sells fast. A suspicious cheap car often sits for weeks because every experienced buyer has already walked away. Never hand over money before seeing the car cold. Tell the seller not to start it before you arrive. A cold engine exposes problems that warm oil can temporarily hide. Listen for deep knocking, heavy ticking, grinding, or an unusually slow crank. Watch the exhaust. A little vapor on a cold morning is normal. Thick white smoke after the engine warms up can mean coolant is entering the cylinders. Blue smoke suggests the engine is burning oil. Neither automatically means the car is worthless, but both can turn a $500 bargain into a replacement engine problem. Bring a flashlight and look underneath. Cosmetic surface rust is common on old vehicles, especially in the Rust Belt. Structural rust is different. Check the frame rails, subframes, rocker panels, suspension mounting points, and the metal around the rear axle. If the metal is flaking apart, has large holes, or looks like it could collapse under a jack, walk away. Engines and transmissions can be repaired. A rotten structure usually is not worth saving at this price. Check the engine oil, coolant, transmission fluid, and brake fluid. Milky residue under the oil cap can indicate moisture or coolant contamination. Burnt-smelling transmission fluid is a warning sign. Low coolant may mean the owner ignored a leak. Look for fresh oil around the valve covers, intake manifold, and underneath the engine. Old cars leak, and a small seep is not always a deal breaker. A large puddle, overheating problem, or constant need for coolant is different. Drive the vehicle long enough to reach operating temperature. Test every forward gear and reverse. Make sure the transmission shifts without slipping or slamming. Brake firmly from a safe speed. Listen for wheel bearing noise, suspension clunks, and grinding brakes. Let go of the steering wheel briefly on a flat road and see whether the car pulls aggressively. Bring an inexpensive OBD2 scanner for vehicles built from the mid-1990s onward. A seller can erase a check engine light, but the computer may still show incomplete readiness monitors or pending trouble codes. That little scanner can reveal a misfire oxygen sensor problem transmission code or evaporative system fault before you own it. The first car worth hunting is the Buick LeSabre from roughly 2000 through 2005. This is one of those cars the market forgot because it never looked exciting. Nobody dreamed about owning a LeSabre. It was not built for racing, off-roading, or impressing the neighbors. It was built for comfortable trips to the grocery store, the doctor's office, and Sunday morning service. That boring image is exactly what makes it such a hidden bargain. Under the hood is General Motors' 3.8-liter Series 2 V6, better known as the 3800. Mechanics respect this engine because it is simple, under-stressed, and capable of very high mileage when basic maintenance is performed. It uses an old-school pushrod design, makes enough torque to move the large Buick comfortably, and does not need exotic parts or complicated service procedures. Examples with more than 200,000 miles are common, and cared-for engines have a reputation for reaching 300,000 miles or more. The LeSabre also has the right kind of previous owner. Many were purchased by older drivers who kept them in garages, drove gently, and changed the oil on a schedule. When those owners stop driving or their families sell the vehicle, the car may enter the market for far less than its mechanical condition would suggest. A dirty compact Honda can attract 10 buyers in one afternoon. A clean beige Buick may sit unnoticed because younger shoppers do not want to look like their grandfather. That lack of demand is where your opportunity begins. The ride is soft. The seats are wide. The trunk is enormous, and highway driving is easy. Insurance can be reasonable because nobody mistakes a LeSabre for a sports car. Parts are everywhere, and many repairs can be handled by a regular independent shop or driveway mechanic. It is the kind of car that may look tired, but still feels calm and solid at 65 miles per hour. There are weaknesses. The plastic intake components and intake manifold gaskets can develop coolant leaks. Before buying, inspect the coolant level, look for residue near the intake, and make sure the temperature gauge stays steady during the test drive. Window regulators often fail, so one or more windows may not move. Suspension parts, motor mounts, and wheel bearings may be worn on high-mileage cars. None of these issues should be ignored, but they are usually more manageable than a failing transmission or damaged engine. The transmission should shift smoothly when cold and hot. If it slips under acceleration, leave it behind. At $500, a LeSabre will probably have cosmetic damage, high mileage, or a small repair waiting. That is acceptable when the title is clean, the body is structurally solid, the engine stays cool, and the transmission behaves. Spend another few $100s on fluids, brakes, belts, or a battery, and you may have a comfortable old sedan that continues working long after newer vehicles have trapped their owners in monthly payments. The second car is the Toyota Camry from 1997 through 2001. Everybody knows Toyota has a reputation for reliability, which normally makes cheap Camrys difficult to find. But age eventually pushes even the best cars toward the bottom of the market. Paint fades, clear coat peels, door handles break, interiors become stained, and owners decide the car looks too old, even though it still runs properly. That is when a knowledgeable buyer can step in. The engine to look for is the 2.2-liter four-cylinder. It is not fast, but speed is not the goal when your entire transportation budget fits inside an envelope. This engine is simple, fuel-efficient, and well known for lasting when it receives regular oil changes and cooling system maintenance. It can deliver highway fuel economy in the upper 20s, which matters when every gallon affects your budget. The Camry is lighter and more fuel-efficient than the large Buick, and nearly every parts store carries common maintenance items. Brake components, ignition parts, filters, belts, sensors, and suspension pieces are widely available. Independent mechanics have worked on these cars for decades, so you are not paying someone to learn the vehicle at your expense. The major item to verify is the timing belt. Ask when it was replaced, and whether the water pump was changed at the same time. A seller may not have records, especially on a $500 car. That does not always mean you should walk away, but you need to budget for the service immediately. Ignoring an old timing belt is gambling with the engine. The repair is much cheaper when performed before the belt fails. The available V6 is smoother and stronger, but neglected examples can develop oil sludge. Remove the oil cap and look inside with a flashlight. Thick black deposits, heavy varnish or sludge resembling dark paste suggest poor maintenance. A clean engine is not guaranteed to be healthy, but severe sludge is a reason to leave. The four-cylinder is usually the safer choice for a buyer whose priority is low operating cost. Old Camrys can also suffer from worn engine mounts, leaking valve cover gaskets, tired suspension bushings, broken exterior door handles, and neglected cooling systems. Look for signs of overheating and test the automatic transmission carefully. Toyota built strong cars, but no manufacturer can protect a vehicle from 25 years of abuse. The badge does not replace a pre-purchase inspection. The biggest challenge is finding an honest one at the lowest price. Cheap Camrys are sometimes sold by owners who know the transmission is failing, the engine is overheating, or the catalytic converter has been removed. Avoid cars with missing paperwork, questionable title stories, and sellers who refuse a cold start. A rough-looking Camry owned by the same family for 15 years can be a much better purchase than a freshly detailed one being flipped by someone who bought it last week. A maintained Camry from this generation can pass 300,000 miles, but mileage alone does not tell the whole story. A 250,000-mile car with service records may be safer than a 140,000-mile car that never received transmission fluid, coolant, or oil changes. Buy the condition and the history, not the number on the odometer. Now we come to the vehicle most buyers overlook completely, and this is the one I would search for first if I needed cheap transportation with simple American parts. The Ford Crown Victoria and its quieter twin, the Mercury Grand Marquis, may be the closest thing to an old-school road appliance America ever produced. These cars were built on Ford's Panther platform, with body-on-frame construction, rear-wheel drive, a large cabin, and the 4.6-liter modular V8. That engine was used in police cars, taxis, government vehicles, and private sedans across the country. It does not make modern performance car power, but it produces smooth torque runs, calmly at highway speed, and was designed for long hours of use. Taxi companies did not buy Crown Victorias because they were stylish. Police departments did not use them because they were fuel efficient. They used them because the cars could absorb abuse, idle for hours, survive rough roads, and return to service after relatively simple repairs. High-mileage examples are everywhere, and some have traveled well beyond 300,000 miles. The real advantage today is market perception. Many buyers see a Crown Victoria and think police, auction, old taxi, or retired grandfather. That image keeps demand low. The Mercury Grand Marquis may be the smarter target because it was more likely to be privately owned, gently driven, and equipped with a comfortable interior. A clean Grand Marquis from an older owner can be one of the best cheap car discoveries in America. Open the hood and you will understand why mechanics like them. There is room to see components, parts are widely available, and junkyards still contain usable replacements. The drivetrain is familiar to shops throughout the country. Brake parts, suspension pieces, sensors, ignition coils, belts, pumps, and body panels are easier to locate than parts for many obscure imported cars. The interior is huge. The trunk can swallow groceries, tools, luggage, or mobility equipment. The ride is comfortable, the seating position is easy to enter and exit, and the car feels stable on the highway. For retired drivers, or anyone who values comfort over appearance, the Grand Marquis is especially hard to beat, at the bottom of the market. Fuel economy is the obvious weakness. A large, rear-wheel drive V8 sedan will use more gasoline than the four-cylinder Camry. City mileage can hurt if you drive long distances every day. The car is also large, which makes tight parking spaces more difficult. Police interceptor models may have heavy idle hours, rough service history, damaged interiors, and worn suspension. Do not assume the police package automatically makes the car better. For normal transportation, the civilian Crown Victoria, or Grand Marquis, is usually the safer bet. Inspect the transmission closely. Drive the car cold. Allow it to warm up and test moderate acceleration. Watch for delayed engagement, slipping, harsh shifts, or shuddering. Check for coolant leaks around the intake manifold, because some plastic intake designs can crack or leak. Listen for suspension noises. Inspect the rear axle area and look underneath for structural rust. In northern states, rust can destroy an otherwise excellent car. A $500 Crown Victoria will not be beautiful. It may have faded paint, worn seats, an old battery, or a window that no longer works. What matters is whether the major systems are healthy. A solid engine, clean shifting transmission, safe frame, and correct paperwork are worth far more than shiny paint. When those four things are present, the Crown Victoria or Grand Marquis becomes the kind of boring, durable bargain that can save someone from a $700 monthly payment. There are vehicles you should avoid completely at this price. A $500 German luxury car is rarely a gift. It is usually a repair estimate wearing leather seats. Old BMW, Mercedes-Benz, and Audi models can be wonderful when maintained, but neglected examples may need cooling system parts, electronic modules, air suspension sensors, or transmission work, costing several times the purchase price. Be cautious with vehicles carrying salvage or rebuilt titles, especially when the seller cannot explain the damage. Hidden structural problems, disabled airbags, water damage, and electrical issues are difficult to evaluate on a small budget. Also, avoid any seller whose name is not on the title. Stories about selling the car for a cousin, neighbor, friend, or previous owner can become registration nightmares. Do not buy a car because the seller says it only needs a cheap sensor. If the repair were truly easy and guaranteed to make the car worth more, the seller could have replaced it. Assume every unexplained check engine light may represent a larger problem until your scanner and inspection prove otherwise. Once you find a good candidate, use its flaws to negotiate without insulting the owner. Calmly mention worn tires, weak brakes, a bad window regulator, an old battery, or overdue maintenance. Bring cash, but do not show desperation. Be prepared to walk away. The most expensive cheap car is the one you buy because you are afraid another opportunity will never appear. Verify that the vehicle identification number matches the title, dashboard, and door label. Make sure there are no liens. Get a signed bill of sale and transfer the title promptly. Budget for taxes, registration, insurance, towing, and immediate maintenance, because the purchase price is not the total cost. During the first week, change the engine oil and filter, unless you have convincing proof it was done recently. Inspect the coolant, brake fluid, transmission fluid, power steering fluid, belts, hoses, air filter, tires, battery, and brakes. Do not blindly flush a severely neglected, high-mileage automatic transmission without professional advice. But do inspect the fluid and address leaks. Replace dangerous tires and failing brakes before spending money on appearance. The truth is that a reliable $500 car is rare, especially in expensive cities. You may need to spend $1,000 or $1,500 to find the same models in usable condition. The lesson is not that every one of these vehicles will appear for exactly $500. The lesson is that old, unwanted cars with proven drivetrains can still provide transportation for less than a few months of modern car payments. The Buick LeSabre is the comfortable, hidden bargain. The Toyota Camry is the fuel-efficient, safe bet. But the Ford Crown Victoria and Mercury Grand Marquis are the machines I would hunt first, because they combine old-school construction, cheap American parts, simple repairs, and almost no interest from younger buyers. You do not need a giant loan to own transportation. You need patience, a flashlight, a scanner, a clean title, and the discipline to walk away from bad cars. The average buyer shops for shine. The smart buyer shops for structure maintenance and a drivetrain that refuses to die. That is how $500 stops being pocket change and starts becoming freedom.